You're listening to Converge Lab, navigating cyber and AI. Clear insight and real-world context for business leaders navigating cyber and AI risk.
The best cybersecurity programs don't just have the right tools, they have the right leadership behind them. That's why so many organizations pair Track GRC with our virtual CISO services. You get structure, visibility, and strategic direction all working together. If you're trying to mature your program without overbuilding internally, connect with SBS to see what that can look like. Visit us at sbscyber.com to get started. Welcome to the show. I'm Jon Waldman, president and co-founder of SBS CyberSecurity, and we're excited you've chosen to join us. Community banks have always had a tricky balancing act. Earn the trust the old-fashioned way, then prove you can move as fast as the fintechs everyone's comparing you to. That tension has not gone away, but the stakes have gotten a lot higher. Between real-time payment rails, AI creeping into everything from fraud detection to customer service, evolving tech stacks from traditional networking to living in the cloud, and a threat landscape that doesn't care how big your IT budget is, technology leaders inside community banks are being asked to modernize and protect at the same time, with no room to get either one wrong. Today's guest sits right at the center of that ever-evolving technology tornado. He also happens to be an old friend and a wonderful human being. Chris Kreul is the Chief Technology Officer for First Bank and Trust in Brookings, South Dakota, where he's responsible for the systems, security, and strategy that keep the bank running, and for figuring out which new technologies are worth the risk of adopting and which ones aren't. Fun backstory, Chris, or CK as he's known around these parts, was also president of the Student Senate at Dakota State University when I joined up all the way back in, I don't remember if it was 2000 or 2001, where I first saw him demonstrate the wonderful leadership skills he brings every day to First Bank and Trust. Not only has he grown even more as a leader, he's built a tremendous department and team over the years. CK does amazing things for the communities he serves, including the cyber and banking communities, as well as the community in which he lives, and I always look forward to our conversations. CK, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jon. I'm just so grateful to be here with you. It's been amazing to watch you grow throughout the years since I first saw you walk in to that first meeting forever ago, it seems like. And it's been fantastic to see the awesome things that you've been doing for the whole cybersecurity community and everything that you're a part of. So thank you for everything that you do.
Well, much appreciated. And I'm sure I looked a whole lot different because I remember the, long hair and enjoying the college experience a little bit more. So,
right on.
Well, as we like to do when we start off our podcast here, let's talk a little bit about your cybersecurity origin story. As you look back over your career, my friend, how or when did cybersecurity start to influence your role and your career, especially since there was not a cybersecurity degree at DSU back in the early 2000s?
Yeah, it was early and very quick how important cybersecurity is for an organization. I started out as an intern for a credit card company. Credit card servicing is what we were responsible for. And I think it was within 3 weeks of being the new network intern. It was the first time the organization had brought in interns. And so I was the very first time, it's like, okay, what are we doing? I'm freshly minted from school, not quite graduated yet, thinking I understand how computers work. And we get hit with the I love you virus at the time. And then I think there was also a worm around that time going around, Code Red. I don't remember exactly the timing, but I remember reimaging 125 different machines to keep the call center working because our users loved the I love you virus, and they would click and then it would lock them up. It would do all kinds of fun things. And it was right there that I realized how important it is to really focus in and make sure, A, your end users know that you shouldn't just open everything that is sent to you in email. And also, what are the mitigating factors that you can put into place to try to prevent some of that? And so that really hit me across the head, if you will, to really pay attention to that and to understand just how important cybersecurity is. Because if you get it wrong, your organization ceases to exist. And so you don't ever want to let that happen. So that was, like I said, within the first month, I got to learn that. And it's stuck with me for all of these years.
Were you using Norton Ghost back in those days?
We actually, it was my first time understanding what a Moab was, which is a mother of all boot disks. So I believe it might have been Norton Ghost at the time. There was a couple of them that we were arguing about which was the better one. But yeah, we got that 3.5-inch floppy and we worked the heck out of it.
Oh, that was great. I remember when I worked as a work study at DSU at the Carlmont Library. That was part of our evening role before we closed up for the night, was to reimage all of the lab computers with Norton Ghost on CD. So takes me back down memory lane a little bit.
The good old days, right?
That's right. That's right. Well, those are some super interesting stories going back to those first viruses and worms that you were talking about. So, how has your thinking about cybersecurity evolved from those early lessons that you learned back in those first roles?
Yeah, I think, at the beginning, it was you installed Norton antivirus and you were good. So you installed one thing and you maybe made sure you had the virus signatures updated on your Sonic Wall firewall or your Checkpoint or your Cisco Pix, like whatever you were using at the time. And it was very piecemeal. It was very one thing to do. Over the years, it's drastically changed for the better, which is cybersecurity is a very integral part to the whole organization. It's one piece of the puzzle. It's a very important piece, but it's not the only piece. And it's being able to tell the story to the rest of the organization, why it's important, why we're all in this together, fighting together. There are very smart bad actors out there, and they work very well together. And we have to work together to do our best to lock the front door as strong as we can and to be able to tell that story. So over time, it's building that trust, it's sharing that story, and that has continued to evolve for me as I try to bring others along because our end users don't all understand it. They don't see everything that we get to see on a daily basis to know all of the tricks and all of the things that are trying to be pulled on us as end users. And so being able to share that story in a way that resonates with them is what I've really evolved into over time.
That's awesome. Well, you've always been a wonderful storyteller, and I know that that works both up and down the food chain there at your institution, and as it does multiple industries and multiple organizations. And speaking of which, so when you kind of look at how regulated industries manage cybersecurity risk right now, especially in the financial institution space, what's not working for all kinds of organizations? And what's the thing that really keeps you up at night?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. When I think about it, I'm still frustrated that so many organizations think they can write a check to eliminate their risk. Uh, yes, you have to write a check. But first of all, you should understand the problems that you need to solve. And I see a lot of people jumping to vendors and writing the check to bring something in to maybe implement 5 or 10% of it so they can, check off that checklist for the regulators when they come in. Yep, I've got a SIM. Yep, there you go. Well, what are you using it for? I mean, you are spending dollars of your organization to check a checklist. It should actually be providing value. And that's one thing that our team talks a lot about is when we bring something in, what's the value the organization is going to actually get out of it? Because our front lines have to drive the revenue in order to give us that money to spend. So it's not free money. We don't get to just do it for funsies. We actually have to understand what is the problem that we're going to solve, and what is that really going to do from a risk standpoint? Is it going to improve our end users' lives? Is it going to reduce the attack surface? How do we do that? And I think that is something that we're seeing positive growth, but I still run into it far too often, John, when people are like, yep, I bought that. Okay, so how are you using it? Well, we're kind of using it. That is not an acceptable answer anymore with just simply the amount of um, different attacks that are out there, the different risks that change every single day. We have to make sure we're fighting that fight as best we can using all of the tools at our disposal in order to be the best that we can.
Absolutely. Well, and to go back to your analogy of installing Norton antivirus on a computer, it's like that, right? It's you gone are the days where you worry about the signature being updated so you're catching all of the stuff. It's well beyond that. It's behavior and so much more. So it's more than just, like you were saying, buying the antivirus, installing it, and then you're good. It's all of the stuff that you've been talking about, really knowing and understanding that risk. And I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and I think if I were to pick one other thing to, what's failing, maybe failing is a strong word. I'm reminded of, I was at a conference and there was a large bank there. We'll just say very large. I cannot say names. Um, and they were talking about all of the fraud that they were seeing. And they were talking about the attacks that they were identifying. And I was like, could you share those indicators of compromise? Like if you're seeing it, there's pretty good chance that I'm going to see it pretty soon, right? Because they're going to attack you first, and then they're going to come after me. And the gentleman looked at me and smiled and said, I'm sorry, that's proprietary information. We have got to get over that because we are 1,000 banks that need to be fighting with both hands, not with one arm tied behind our back, but we need to be able to communicate with each other. And we still have a long ways to go. And I think that's what really keeps me up at night is knowing that on the bad actor side, they are amazing at sharing, hey, I'm doing this and this works. Why aren't we doing that on the good guy side? And we really need to drive that conversation forward.
Amen. Well, and we talk about that quite a bit too. Like financial institutions aren't competing on the cybersecurity side of the world, and helping each other be safe and secure helps the industry and helps the United States be able to move money and process all the transactions that need to be processed. So great point there. On the flip side of that, what do you see working really well, my friend? Where do you feel encouraged with where we're at with technology and cyber maturity today?
I think a lot of people are really embracing and understanding how to leverage information security programs. I mean, the days of old, it was one thing, it was maybe one page policy, and people are understanding no, you need a risk management framework. You need to have the information security program. And I'm encouraged to see that that is not simply a checkbox in many organizations because the communication back and forth is how are you handling this? What's your team doing about this? And we're starting to see that a lot more than we were in the past. And that really encourages me because I know that then they're looking at it holistically. We get so caught up in our specializations that sometimes we forget about the organization, but it feels like the the growth and the maturity in the cybersecurity space, which is very, very young, is starting to make the right strides to be part of that whole organization today.
That's awesome. And, and some of the things that we've been preaching for over 20 years about how do you build a living, comprehensive, valuable information security program, much like you were saying, that doesn't just check the box, but actually can grow with you and helps you make good decisions and highlights the things that you should be doing. So, music to my ears, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, and part of a strong, healthy information security program is training and building a strong cybersecurity culture at your institution that doesn't live in a specific department, but lives everywhere, because information security isn't just your responsibility or your ISO's responsibility. It takes the whole of the village, right? So, what do you believe that it actually takes to build a strong culture of cybersecurity? And even more importantly, how do you know when it's working?
Yeah, I like to reflect on, I think Warren Buffett was accredited with this, but it takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. We have got to continue to build day by day that trust with the organization. And when I think of somebody accidentally clicking on something or accidentally answering, an MFA prompt, we want them to raise their hand. We want them to reach out to us. And that's what we tell them. Hey, if something happens, reach out to us. Hey, if you accidentally click something, reach out to us. If you notice something, reach out to us. That only works if when they do reach out to you, when they're having potentially the worst day of the month, or in some cases, the worst day of their career, when they call you with like, oh my goodness, I just gave away all my information. I think something's leaving. If we don't answer that call empathetically, we lose all credibility. We have to remember they're humans, and we have to treat them as such and walk them through, okay, thank you, first of all, for calling to let us know. This is what we're going to do to solve their problem. So when I look at the platform overall, are people calling my help desk? Are people reaching out to my security teams? What's that interaction look like? Because if we cut them down when they call us and we're like, well, why did you click that? I can't believe you did that. That is going to go through your entire organization within a day. And suddenly nobody's going to be hitting the fish alert buttons. Nobody's going to be calling. And you're going to have blind spots instead of having a whole organization on the lookout. You're going to have people saying, I'm not even going to look. I'm not even going to do anything. And if I click that, whoops, I'm just going to delete it, move on and act like nothing happened. And that's a failure. So that's kind of what I think of. What do you think? Does that sound okay?
Absolutely. You have to understand what that looks like from a human perspective, because we've all made mistakes, you know, and there's so much opportunity out there for folks to fail. We've been talking about not clicking on phishing emails for over 20 years. You've probably been doing the same thing. People still click on phishing emails because you're exactly right. They're human. So how do you have continuous ongoing conversations? How do you lead those individuals with empathy and provide them good training and testing and processes so that they know how to click the fish button, they know who to call in those cases? Because you're exactly right. If they're hiding stuff from you, then you got to go hunt for it, or you wait until something bad happens and then you find out that somebody's been in your network for 326 days and you could have resolved that issue with a phone call.
Yep,
So I agree.
exactly.
100%. One, speaking of how long we've been talking about phishing, when you think back to what technology looked like 5, 10, even 15 years ago, it's kind of hard to even think back to what that world looks like. I mean, when we started SBS, we were talking with our banking clients about the risk around internet banking because everybody was scared and nervous. They've been getting told for 3 years that they have to do everything that they can to protect customer information. And then the industry changed, and we said, all right, let's take our customer information and put it on the internet for our customers to access. So the paradigm shifted quite a bit. And you've been along for that ride, and you've seen a lot of different stuff over, the last 20, 15, 10 or so years. What do you think when you look ahead at technology and the next 5 years? What do you think that that's going to look like?
I'm really optimistic that we're going to see some very cool things in the next 5 years. I am probably overestimating what's going to be here in 5 years. But when I look out, I think we're going to have the most secure code for our applications that we've ever had. I realize people are panicking right now because of the new potential to find new vulnerabilities at speeds never before seen before. Um, and that's okay, but we're on the very beginning of that bell curve. So what's going to happen? We're going to find lots of vulnerabilities that have been around for 20 years that we never even knew about, that nation states probably knew about for the last 15 years, and they've just been very quiet about it. But we're going to be able to patch those vulnerabilities. And that's going to get us, I believe, within the next 5 years to software that is, like I said, stronger than we've ever experienced before and patched faster than we ever knew could even be possible. So I'm very excited for that. I'm also excited that maybe the software is actually going to get easier to use. And we're actually going to be able to get real information from all of the data that is sitting out there. I think of the mounds and mounds of data that we bring in as a financial institution, security, and just regular customer information. How do we go through that? Today we spend a lot of time reviewing information, but I think within the next 5 years, it's going to get so much easier. Once we figure out how to build a semantic layer over this stuff to give AI the insights it needs to actually make sense of all of that data, it's going to unlock a whole lot of very interesting options and opportunities that can really make organizations productive. Uh, so I'm very hopeful for the next 5 years.
That's awesome. I knew you would be optimistic because you're an optimistic guy. And I am too. I agree with you, especially around the data. There are so many organizations like yourself, like us, and have so much data that is scattered around in so many different places. And it's so different leveraging some of the technologies that we have today to build more effective applications and programs and whatnot to collect your data and be able to leverage that in new ways from a protection perspective and a lot of different use cases. So I love that. And speaking of new technology, all of the things that all of the organizations out there are trying to figure out what to do with AI today. Some are leveraging it better than others. Some are dipping their toes. Some are still asking questions about what does this mean for us. But from a leveraging AI perspective, whether you guys are fully immersed or figuring it out, what's something that you're really excited that AI is doing, or a problem that you can't wait for AI to solve for you?
I think I'll share a story that my team makes fun of me because they tell me I keep making the numbers bigger. So I have full disclosure. I have lowered my numbers, so I should be very, very on point with this. But we have taken and automated our programming for vulnerabilities. And what I mean is we have our Nessa scanner scanning. It identifies, hey, you've got vulnerabilities in this code base. It creates a ticket. That ticket is then sent to Azure DevOps to be created as a work item. That work item then goes into a work stream that then is automatically coded. That code is pushed for approval. That approval then is looked at by a developer to make sure that we're not breaking something, and then it goes live. Before we started this, we had around 700 low and then some medium vulnerabilities, right? The things that you wish you had time to get to, but they're really hard to exploit. We've got mitigating factors in, so it's really not the end of the world if you don't get to it. You focus on criticals and highs, and then adding additional functionality to what is going or what is needed by the business. That number, after about 45 to 60 days, went from 700 to it's now 4. So think of that. 696 items, automatically coded, vulnerabilities reduced, and my development team is still developing on the things they need to develop. That is the power of AI when you use it correctly. We're also, leveraging it for OCR technology to read in information to help deploy information into different workflows for our end users. That's saving 540 hours a year, just that one process alone. So there's a lot of opportunity for financial institutions to use AI. It's where can you use it operationally? Where can you use it on your security teams? And how do you deploy it? Um, I really want AI to get smarter yet. We're not there. I mean, it does a lot of cool things, but it still takes a lot of configuring, a lot of prompt engineering. If you're in the Copilot world, you have to leverage Power Automate. You have to bring in these other pieces to help you. Cowork does specific things in the environment, but you have to leverage it. And, back to your 5 years question, over the next 5 years, that's going to get a lot more refined. So it will actually be an operating system that you can interact with. And that's what I'm looking for it to solve for me. Uh, I know you're leading a company. How many meetings are happening? How do you stay up to date on what those meetings are? How do you make sure you're staying out of the way of your team, but still being informed so you can ask the right questions? And right now I've got different workflows set up to do that, but it's clunky and I want it to be very smooth. So that's where I'm hopeful in the next few years that we can get that really nailed down.
Well, that was some amazing use cases, my friend, and real value that you can measure and replicate and report upstream and say, hey, look how AI is helping us in these areas by eliminating, what did you say, 696 vulnerabilities over the course of a period of time that have hung out there for a long time, or saving you 500 hours on the OCR side of the world. I mean, those are some real numbers and real value on a return for investment. So thanks for sharing all of that stuff. And you're 100% right. I mean, if you just look at even where Copilot, because we're a Copilot shop like you, was a year ago. I mean, we didn't have Cowork. Now, Cowork is costing you more tokens and all of that kind of stuff. So that'll be an interesting battleground. Probably isn't the right term, but an interesting front to watch out and see what happens in the next few months as the market pushes back on token costs and all of that kind of stuff. But
Yeah, it's going to be very interesting. And you mentioning tokens brings something up. We got this from a gentleman over at Incredible Bank, and I thought it was outstanding. You need to create click counters for everything that you're doing. So when you're looking at automating with AI, you need to create a dashboard that is tracking that. So every time that is called, you can keep track of what you're spending in tokens for that call. And then at the same time, you need to work with the business to understand what did that save you in people time. So then you can have your running dashboard. And that allows you to understand your token usage. Is it worth doing this still with AI? If they jack it up by 10x, is it still the right move? Or do you have to refactor? And at the same time, it's something that you can bring into your leadership team to say, well, we've done these 10 processes. And yes, our token usage has gone up and it's now $1,000 a month. But look at the business side of the dashboard. We're saving $4,000 a month. Still a pretty good deal. And I think that is something that we as leaders need to remember. The business side. We have to talk that revenue and expense side and show that to the business.
that's fantastic. Great advice, my friend. That's super cool because even we're having those conversations about how do you test out what those costs are. Like when the Cowork and Fable tokens started being monetized, even within Copilot, We set a budget right away, and we blew that budget out in 3.5 days. It wasn't a big budget, but we wanted to set a budget that we were like, all right, well, let's look and see what this looks like. And so we've done not something quite like that, but similar, to set limits and then have conversations when individuals bump up against those limits. Say, all right, well, what are you working on? But doing that by process probably makes a bit more sense. Well, great stuff, my friend. And as we wrap up today, anything else that you want to throw out there for lessons learned or stories to tell before we close her down?
Yeah, I'll share maybe one more thought that I've been thinking about. I recently watched something on Abraham Lincoln, and something really stood out for me. Did you know that he walked 20 miles to get one book to read so he could become a lawyer? And he did this week after week until he could get his law degree. And it hit me in a way that we've got so much information at our fingertips right now. Sometimes we lean on these AI models to create things for us, but are you actually learning? Are you using AI to learn, or are you using AI to become lazy? And when I saw that with Lincoln, I'm like, how can I make sure that I'm walking the 20 miles to get my knowledge? Because there's that potential that we can just fade away. And I don't want any of us to do that. I want us to stay engaged. I want us to learn more. I want us to be able to do more personally and for the organizations that we're a part of. So my last thought is just stay vigilant and keep learning.
I did not know that. And I was trying to factor in how long it would take to walk 20 miles. I don't know. I'm not.
Yeah, it's a long time. And that's on top of his full-time job that he had at the time. It's not like that was the only thing that he was doing. So it's amazing.
That is amazing. But great points about staying engaged and not just using AI to solve problems for you, but understanding the problems that you need to solve and what the outcome is as AI helps you to solve the problem and learn a little bit along the way, maybe a little bit faster. But that's fantastic. CK, thank you so much for joining us today. We once again appreciate all of your knowledge and insight. So just as we wrap up here, reminder, we were spending our time here today with Chris Kreul, CK, Chief Technology Officer at First Bank and Trust in Brookings, South Dakota. And from my perspective, if there's one big takeaway from this conversation, which is something that CK and I have talked about a lot over the years, it's that business in cyber resilience isn't just a thing that you do once or you build once and you think that it's there and in place in perpetuity. Rather, it's a discipline that you have to keep working on and talking about and evolving as the threats and the tools around us keep changing and evolving over time. The world, when CK and I first started in the world of cybersecurity, back before anybody called it cybersecurity, looks a whole lot different than it does today. And we've had to grow and evolve our thinking and our tools and our tech stacks and our processes and our people along the way. And the organizations and the banks that come out ahead are not going to be the ones with the flashiest tech stacks, but the ones where technology, security, strategy, and insights are all part of that same conversation going forward. And they're not only had once, they're not as a means to check a box, but part of the business moving ahead. Well, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to subscribe, follow, and share the show with your colleagues and peers who are navigating these same challenges. Thanks once again for listening, and we will see you next time on Converge Lab, Navigating Cyber and AI.